What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the first power rankings of the actual season. We obviously did the preseason power rankings before this year. We have the power rankings for October I'm going to try to speed it up a little bit more this time around this year. Some of the videos kind of dragged on, so I'm going to try to basically just summarize everything and why I place them there. So, starting off in the number 32nd spot for October, we will be doing one of these at the end of every month, just like last year. Moving down 6 spots from where I had them in the preseason power ranking, the Anaheim Ducks. They get that win over Toronto somehow after they came back from 3-1 down in the third. They still have played awful. They're the worst record in the league as of right now, points-wise. And things have just not worked, and you think by adding Ryan Strome, Frank Vatrano, John Klingberg, Zegers being a year older, McTavish being added to the lineup for a bit. You think this team would be better, and they're just not. So Anaheim back to 32. I think they'll get better as the year progresses. Might be one of those spoiler teams, but for now, just that ain't it. Now at number 31, moving up 1 spot from where I had them, is the Arizona Coyotes. So Arizona, they've got a few wins. They beat Toronto for 1, and as you can see, a lot of the bottom teams here, they could say they beat Toronto. But, so yeah, Toronto loses to them. Arizona's new arena, Mullet Arena at ASU. It's going to be an interesting experience, that's for sure. I know someone that goes there, so that's cool. But I don't think he's gone to didn't go to the opener, but he might tell me he went to a game sooner or later. So yeah, Arizona at number 31, just kind of enough said. They're not trying to win. Yeah. Moving down 1 spot from where I had them at the start of the season, also beating Toronto, the San Jose Sharks. So San Jose had that dreadful start going 0-5. They were able to recoup some of their losses, but they're not expected to be good or anything. So San Jose, 30th overall, and they said they're open to trading anyone except Tomas Hertl, so it's very interesting, to say the least. Number 29, moving down 20 spots from where I had them in the last go-around, or the last power rankings, which is the tied for 3rd biggest drop on the board, and that's going to be Nashville. They were able to beat San Jose. They also won another game, and that's it. They started off the season 2-0 against San Jose, and they thought, okay, Bonita Ryder's got the league leading goals. I know it's the first 2 games, but that's fine. And it just hasn't followed up. They just haven't been scoring. They haven't been Duchesne, Forsberg, Johansson. They've not been on top of their game. Yossi as well is not off to a great start, and Nashville's just not been able to produce, and that's why they're at number 29th. Also, should probably mention right here, as you could probably see on the standings, if you kept track of the standings while you're watching this, these 3 are obviously the 3 worst in the standings. That's how I also think they've played. Nashville is definitely not next in line, but from how they've played, that's how Nashville's looked to me, and there's obviously going to be a lot of change as I do the power rankings over a month span, rather than for example, the hockey guy who does them at the end of every week. So there's going to be a lot more change in my power rankings, that's for sure. Now, moving down 12 spots from last time, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Columbus, they added Johnny Gaudreau. They're supposed to get a full year of Gaudreau and Line on the same line. You got a bunch of centers to try out, and nothing's worked. Gaudreau's been good, and Ken Johnson's been pretty good as well. But Line got hurt. Merzlikins, of course, with getting threats against his family, that's unacceptable, and I can't believe someone would do that, to be honest. Then there's just not much has gone right for Columbus. Andrew Peake's been another bright spot for them, but it's been hard to find bright spots on that team. And I had them in the playoffs. That's 2 teams now that I've had in the playoffs, and they're already in my bottom 5. Now, moving down 15 spots, and people probably are going to get on me a little for this one, but St. Louis at 27. They won their first 3 games, and aside from that, they've looked awful. They've not looked good whatsoever. They got smacked by Montreal. They got smacked by LA last night, and it's just not been good for St. Louis. And Tarasenko, I think, is on an expiring deal, and he's demanded a trade, so it comes deadline time. Of course, we're way before that. But Tarasenko may be getting traded at the deadline to see we'll see where they can improve, or if they're going to be left to swim, or swim or sink. Sink or swim, I should say. Moving down 16 spots, another playoff team I had, Vancouver Canucks. We're off to the 0-5-2 start, and nothing looked good, but they have won now 2 in a row. They're starting to get back into it, and they looked okay in it. I think if they can get a string, if they win, like, for example, 4 of their next 5, they'll be right back into it. And the Pacific Division has turned out to be somehow worse than I expected. I expected them to be better. I didn't expect them to completely fall off the face of the earth, because that's what they've done. But Vancouver, they need to get back into this if they hope for a playoff spot, and that's the goal. If that fails, then Bo Horvat's probably going to be gone, and who knows what other pieces can be traded off. Now moving down 23 spots, this is by far the biggest drop on the board, the Toronto Maple Leafs. As Steve Dangle said, they are playing pathetic. I have no doubt that they'll make the playoffs, but right now they've just looked awful. They've lost to Anaheim, they lost to San Jose, they lost to Arizona, they lost to LA, they beat Winnipeg. Out of all the teams they beat Winnipeg. And that's been it. Toronto just hasn't looked good. There's been it looks like Marner and Keefe are going at it. Matthews isn't scoring at the rate he was last year. He's still scoring well, but not as well, which is definitely something you could understand after a 60-goal season. Matt Murray's been injured after Game 1. Sam Sonoff has been their best player, to be honest. And it's just been a travesty for Toronto. If things don't turn around soon, I'm sure that, both Keefe and Dubas' contracts are up at the end of the season. I'm sure that they'll fire Keefe if it comes down to it. Dubas, I'm thinking he's going to walk at the rate it's going right now. Another team that's not doing so hot, at number 24, who dropped 16 spots, Colorado. Colorado just hasn't had it. I don't know what it is. After a good showing in Game 1 against Chicago in the first game of the season, it has not been bright for Colorado. They're around 500 right now, but Colorado is just not. They just don't have it as well, and it's not been great for them, to say the least. Moving down 8 spots, which a team that's been almost perfect at home but just abysmal on the road, the Ottawa Senators. They have Shane Pinto has been their best player, arguably. Of course, Alex DeBrincat, Claude Giroux. That line's been pretty good. The other lines, Brady Tkachuk's been a good spot. Of course, Cam Talbot went down, and they're down to Forsberg, and I don't know their backup, actually. But, that's Ottawa. Ottawa just... I'm sure they'll get better as the season goes on. I think they'll make the playoffs still, but right now, Ottawa they need to improve their road record. At home, they've been solid, but on the road, that's not good enough. Now, moving down 5 spots, they would have been down even further if it was a week ago. The Minnesota Wild at 22. They beat Chicago in overtime in a game that... Not even overtime, it was a shootout. In a game which... It's Chicago versus Minnesota. Minnesota should be handing it to them. I predicted Minnesota was going to win that one in overtime. That's just because Minnesota's not been playing well. And Boldy's been pretty good, and Fleury's starting to bounce back after a rough start. But Minnesota, they're one of those teams that's allowed Chicago to gain ground in the Central Division. And if you notice here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Central Division teams already. And we're not even in the top 20 yet. And you also realize probably how many Western teams? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 out of 10 right here. 8 out of 11 of these are Western teams. Now, moving up 1 spot from where I had them at the start of the season, Seattle. Shane Wright did not have the debut. He had 1 assist, I believe, and he's not been given proper ice time. I'm not sure what Seattle's trying to do with him. Matty Beniers, on the other hand, has looked fantastic, so that's good for them. Vince Dunn, I like the way he's been playing, so that's another shout-out to him. And they have a bunch of goalies that are injured, Grubauer and Drieger, and I don't even know who's playing in net for them right now. I don't think it's Decord. It's Martin Jones is their starter now. and I think Decord might be the backup, or Hellberg, I'm not sure. But Seattle, they're about where I expected them to be right now, so good for them, and they should always look to keep improving. Now moving down 14 spots, and it won't be like this forever, but like Colorado, Tampa Bay has had Stanley Cup final fever, and they've just not performed at the start of the season, which is common for Stanley Cup teams that were in the Stanley Cup. Tampa's also played a lot of games in the playoffs, just like accumulated a lot of games over the last few years now with all these playoff runs and going to the final and winning it all several times. So Tampa, it's understandable that they'd be a little soft-footed and slow-started to get off to the races. And with number 19, moving down 8 spots, we have the LA Kings. Now, it's funny. What's funny is that LA, I'm pretty sure, is actually in the top 10 or 12. And why do I have them at 19? Because they've played 11 games and they're 6-5. They just got back to above 500 after being below it for quite a bit. They had not a great start either. But LA just hasn't looked right. I don't know what it is about it, but they just haven't looked right. There will be teams where they'll blow out their opponent and then they'll look like shouldn't be in the same league. It's one of those teams that's on and off. You'll have your good games and you'll have your bad games, and that's exactly what LA is right now. And there's right now too many bad ones to outweigh the good ones, even though they've had one more than they've lost. Now, moving up 9 spots from where I had them to start the season has been Montreal. Montreal is a hard-working team, and I've liked the way they've played. They smacked St. Louis the other day. Overall, they're the best. I'm pretty sure they're the best Canadian team currently in the Atlantic Division, which is saying something, because I'm pretty sure they're 6, 7, 8. Unless Tampa's below them, but I can't recall. But Montreal at 18, it's definitely higher than a lot of people had them. That's higher than I had them. Even though I thought they'd be better than what people were saying at the start of the season, it's definitely increased my expectations of them. Do I think they'll keep this up? No, but we'll see. Now, moving down 4 spots from where I had them, the Pittsburgh Penguins. Pittsburgh was off to a running start of the year. They went, I think they were 4-0. They were 4-0-1 then, or something like that. And then they just lost. And they went on. They usually, when they go on that West Coast road trip, they kind of dominate. They tear through there. Lost to Edmonton, lost to Calgary, lost to Vancouver, lost to Seattle. They did not do well at all on that road trip. They gave Vancouver back-to-back wins with Seattle, and then their first 2 wins with Seattle and them, and that was on back-to-back nights. So Pittsburgh looking to turn that around as they continue on to the season. They moved down 4 spots. And moving up 2 spots, right above them is Washington, another team that's been middling around where I thought they'd be. They did not have a great start to the season. They're starting to get their groove. Kemper's been all right. Ovechkin has started producing. Dylan Strome has looked pretty good in Washington. I'm happy for him. Of course, not going to have Backstrom still for a while. TJ Oshie out indefinitely hurts them for sure. But we'll see how Washington goes. Is there a team that's going to be hard to read as the season goes on? Because they might overplay or they might underplay. Really just depends on kind of Ovechkin, to be honest. He's the driving force here. Moving up 16 spots from where I had them, we finally have Chicago. Now, you're probably asking, Chicago's lost their last 3. They're still getting points in all of those games. They should not have... Edmonton should have mopped the floor with them, yet Chicago made them play their worst game of the season. Then they took Buffalo, who was riding high, and they blew a 3-1 lead, but they still got a point. They got a point against Minnesota. They were on a 4-game win streak prior to that. Chicago has looked good, and they are better than expected. That has been clear. And as a Hawks fan, it's pissing me off because I want Bedard. But I don't think they'll keep this up forever. I think they'll fall back into around here by the end of the season for sure, between, I'd say, 22 and 28, because I don't think they're bad enough now to get Bedard. That's another problem with Chicago. They never seem to be bad enough when they try to do bad. Now, moving up 9 spots, we have the Islanders. Islanders have been a difficult team to read. They'll beat Anaheim 7-1, and then they'll shut out a few teams, and then they'll lose strange games. I'm pretty sure they lost to Carolina 4-1 or something like that. And not to say Carolina's a bad team, but just the way they play, they'll score first and then they'll just not be in it the rest of the game. Not sure if it's a continuation of the defense first effect or the offense just not being there, but Islanders are not a team that's you've heard a lot about recently, and that's kind of interesting to me because usually it was a team that's been went to the back-to-back conference finals and now they missed the playoffs, which you'd think they'd be more coverage about them getting back into it, but there's just not been. And moving up 12 spots, we have Winnipeg at number 13. Winnipeg has got off to a pretty good start to the season. Better than expected, that's for sure. Apparently, Rick Bowness, and he's not even been coaching. He's been out with the Batatronic disease, as I should like to say, or COVID. And that's a joke if for anyone who didn't know. But Winnipeg off to a better start than anyone could have predicted. You think that maybe they're the divide in the locker room, maybe they're coming together with Blake Wheeler being stripped, and now they're just trying to get it together and make this team a success. Because Winnipeg these past 3 years has been just a travesty. They look good, then they look bad, and then now they're looking good again. Will they start to look bad soon? Who knows? Winnipeg is a book you never know how it's going to end. So we'll see how Winnipeg goes. Moving up 7 spots, and this is another one that people might get irked on because overall they're not the highest, but Detroit has looked really good when I've seen them play. Of course, the Hawks beat them 4-3 in overtime in their home opener, but Detroit, I thought, has looked pretty good to start the season. Kubalik's been on fire for them. Good for him. It seems like everyone leaving Chicago has been doing great. And, of course, Larkin's in a contract year, so he's going to want to perform. Other pieces, Lucas Raymond, Moritz Seider, are looking to have even better sophomore seasons than rookie seasons. Of course, for Seider, he won the Calder, so we'll see if he can do that. But Detroit's just looked good. They're about the same pace as the Hawks right now. So Detroit, good on them, and they look to make the playoffs, and we'll see if they can. And moving down 8 spots from where I had them at the start of the season is the Rangers. The Rangers, they started off the season well. I think they went 2-0 or 3-0. They beat Tampa pretty good. They made it look easy. And they beat Minnesota and pretty easily as well. And it's just been a mixed bag since. Their swagger that they had to start the season just isn't there right now. Shesterkin has not played like Shesterkin did last year, and Panarin has been on a tear. He's been excellent, Panarin. But that's really all I have to say about the Rangers. I'll have to. That's one of those teams that I need to get another month to see how they play, and then I'll have a more accurate to see where they are. It's like you have the teams over here, but you know we're going to be bad. So it's like, okay, you just need a month to see that. Then you have the mid-league teams like Seattle, like I had about Washington, Pittsburgh, those kind of teams that maybe get in, maybe don't, but they'll make it competitive. And you'll have teams like the Rangers who you don't know how good they are until you actually get a little bit into the season now, which maybe we need just a little bit more to see how they actually are fully going to be. And moving down 2 spots, we have Florida, and losing to Chicago was quite an embarrassment, that's for sure. But Florida just hasn't looked like they've been great. Matthew Tkachuk's been excellent, but Florida's like missing something. They don't feel the same as they did last year. And last year was just score, and now they have Bobrovsky as the backup, honestly, because Spencer Knight's been getting most of the starts, and that Spencer Knight's now, they're spending a lot of money on goaltending, and Bobrovsky's contract, that's got like 4 more years on it, I think. So we'll see if they ever ship it out, firstly, and secondly, if they can recuperate some losses and get back into it. They've played well, they have a winning record, but they just don't have that same, we're going to go in there and we're going to kill you, and we're going to outscore you, and we're going to dominate you, like they did last year. Now, moving up 21 spots for the second biggest jump on the board, the Philadelphia Flyers. I don't know what John Tortorella did to this team. Whatever he did, it worked. They went 4-0-1, I believe, in their first 5. They've looked great, and they're currently just battling Carolina and the Devils for first in the Metropolitan. Did not think that's what I would have been saying at the start of the year. But the Flyers, they've been excellent. Of course, Sean Couturier, of course, with having surgery, and he'll be out. It's unfortunate for him. Flyers players have had an issue with injuries. Ryan Ellis being another one. Nolan Patrick, who is technically under Vegas contract, but he never really got a chance. And it's unfortunate, but Flyers have been doing well, and Tortorella's been clearly a major part of it. So at number 8, moving down 7 spots from where I had them, is Edmonton. They've been winning games, but the way they've been winning them has been McDavid, usual, that is to say. I thought they would be better and more of a team this year, and Jack Campbell has been meh, to say the least. And Evan Bouchard's looked good. Evander Kane pissed me off, but he's doing his job. Draisaitl, of course, is fine. Nugent Hopkins has been off to a great start as well. Hyman as well. I'm trying to think of a player that's not been. Just there have been teams that have surprised me more, and I think that have played better. Edmonton's had their worst game of the season against Chicago of all teams, and they went down 3-0 to Vancouver, who's all the way on that side of the board, and then they came back obviously, but that shouldn't have to happen. And the Oilers just have not looked like they should be winning more than they are, and that's why they've dropped to 8th. Now moving up 14 spots from where I had them at the start, we have Dallas. Jake Ottinger has been a beast. Sagan has looked better. Of course, you got the Pavelski, Hintz, Robertson line, and enough said there, to be honest. But Dallas is it's not really been one player taking the surge this year, but Dallas has looked pretty good. New coaching under Peter DeBoer clearly paying off, and I look forward to seeing them continue to see if they can actually win the Central, because they're pretty in a good shape for their winning the Central right now. Of course, Colorado will be better. Of course, there'll be teams trying to catch up, so we'll see if they can hold it. Moving down 1 spot, we have Calgary, and this is right where I expect them to be about. I had them at 5th to start the season. They're now at 6th. Kadri's been great. Huberdeau has not been as good, is still though done fine. So their replacements have done okay, and they've been winning games. They've played the least amount of games as of start at the end of October. They're 5-2, so that's kind of why they're at 6th. And I would have honestly put them at 4th or 3rd. However, I want to see by the time they get to 9 or 10 games where they are. If they lose all 3 of those, it'll show that they're not firing on all cylinders, and if they win all those 3 games, it'll show, okay, Kadri and Huberdeau and Weegar and all these additions were pretty good. So we'll see how that works. Now moving up 23 spots, tied for 1st, the Buffalo Sabres. Honestly, Buffalo always has these starts. I'm ranking them at 5th. I probably would have had them higher, but they're firing on all cylinders as well. They beat, Detroit 8-3 last night. Tage Thompson has looked excellent. Alex Tuck has looked excellent. Eric Comrie's been pretty good. Craig Anderson, pretty nice. Rasmus Dahlin, of course, been fantastic. But some have compared him to Bobby Orr. What isn't there to say now? Of course, other guys like Skinner, they've been getting assists. Poso's been pretty good on the power play. I've liked the way he's been looking. And it's since a lot of these guys have big contracts like Skinner and Poso. Tage Thompson just received his. And these guys are the ones that are going to have to perform now. So cheers to Buffalo. Don't fall off like you do every single other year that you start well. Never forget this. I think it was the pandemic year, the one that was shortened. Not the 56 game, but the one that every team had a different game. They started off that season 13-3 and then just collapsed the rest of it. I won't forget that, and we'll see if they do as well. Moving up 20 spots, we have the Devils. Beat Columbus 7-1 last game, and that pretty much solidified their spot on number 4. The Devils are first in the Metropolitan. I don't know what kicked into them. I don't know what was done. They're looking good, and I haven't said that about the Devils since maybe ever. And I think they've made the playoffs like 3 or 4 times since I've been alive too, so that's understandable. And 2 of them were before I really started watching hockey. I should say, it's complicated, me and the Devils. I've never really seen them that really good. I saw them Taylor Hall get a heart there, but of course he's been gone for a while now. And New Jersey has been fine without him now that they've got Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier producing. Jesper Bratt has been a menace. He's been the best scorer I've seen of New Jersey have since probably Taylor Hall. So if New Jersey keeps this up, we could be seeing some shake-up in the Eastern playoff teams. And the West, we're kind of seeing the same ones right now that are in, but we'll see. Number 3, moving up one spot, we have Carolina. Nothing new there. Carolina's been good. Their additions have been fine. They're at right where we expected them to be, about 6-2-1. Good record for them. No issues in Carolina. Now, at number 2 and number 1, because they're tied for first in the same amount of points, however, I'm going to put Boston ahead because I think they have the better record by one. They have one less loss. Vegas and Boston. Vegas moving up 19 spots. Or no, Vegas moving up 12 spots. Boston moving up 19 spots. Well done. Both have 8 wins already on the season. Boston being 8-1, I believe, and Vegas being 8-2. Jack Eichels looked great for Vegas. Chandler Stevenson's looked good. Logan Thompson and Aiden Hill have been great in Vegas. Maybe Brazois been sent down to a conditioning stint, which is great for Vegas because they have 3 goalies now. And if a team needs a goalie, they can ship Brazois out. I think he'd be the one to go right now because Thompson and Hill are excellent. And Boston, there's a bit of issue with Swayman, but Allmark's had a bounce back from where he was at the end of last season in the playoffs. And Krejci's come back to North America. He's looked great. Of course, he's injured now. Pasternak, Bergeron, Marchand's just starting to get into the game. But overall, Boston has been my number 1 team by far. And Vegas, although right behind them, I think Boston would beat them if they had a 7-game face-off right now. So tell me down below what you think of these power rankings. This is how I see it right now. We'll come back to this in about 30 days, in which I will be a year older by then, so that'll be cool. And I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and tell me down below what your power rankings are if you have any disagreements. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I shall see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.